And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys, according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not?
So I think we ought to go to the rock at Horeb. Roll in.
Possibly the greatest witness giving validity to Mount Sinai being in Arabia is the rock at Horeb. This enormous rock is split cleanly down the middle and is completely different from anything else in the region. It stands high atop one of the boulder hills that dot the landscape, and on the west side of Horeb, not Sinai. The Bible identifies it exactly this way. I'm standing on the back side of the rock here, and it's easy to see just how large it really is. As I began my walk between the two giant slabs of rock, I became acutely aware that something entirely miraculous had taken place here long ago. Making my way right through the middle of the split, scriptures started rolling over and over again in my head. They became alive to me as I made it through and sat down on the front side. I began to notice immediately the deep channels that were cut into the stone both in front and the back of this rock. You can see one of these channels clearly here. Deep gouges and grooves are apparent at the base also, along with a strange erosion pattern from below that is unique to this rock and no others in the valley. With rainfall every 10 years amounting to less than an inch here, these very obvious cuts made by copious water flows were indeed compelling. Again, the channels are obvious. As we followed the course of the water all the way down and into the valley, we realized the immediate area under the rock was of a smooth and unbroken granite, unlike the crushed particles of stone we'd been hiking on all over the rest of the region. If this rock was the one Moses struck, the waters would have cooled up substantially, and the whole of Israel, including their flocks, could have taken their fill and been satisfied. In addition, a stone altar lies at the ground base of this rock. The Amalek came to fight Israel there at Rephidim, where the rock was, and after the battle Moses built an altar and called it Jehovah Nissi. This giant stone has a circular pit we believe was formed by cumulative fires. Clean through this rock at the ground level below, evidence of ash can be seen. Psalm 78:15 and 16 says, "He clave the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as out of the great depths. He brought streams also out of the rock and caused the waters to run down like rivers." Plainly how large that rock really is. And I tell you what, we found that rock the very first time. It was April the 2nd of 1992. We were completely lost. We thought we were going to come up in a valley and climb up over the top of the mountain and get down into that area where the pillars and all are. We were completely off base. But you know what? Sometimes you're off base by design.
Yes.
And what ended up happening, we came upon this rock, and if you'll go ahead and put up the map, we'll show you exactly where it's located.
48.
You see in the yellow there, the rock at Horeb. And the reason why I was telling you earlier, we believe these two peaks are important is because that rock is never spoken of as the rock at Sinai. It's only ever spoken of as the rock at Horeb. And that is the side, it's on the west side of this other mountain, the one properly called Jebel Lawz. So that's where it's located, and if you'll go to the next picture, you can see just how it stands out in the landscape.
My.
In fact, I put we made the cover of my book this, because it's very, very specific. You know, in my little Sunday school mind, I guess, I had pictured that Moses tapped a little rock and everybody stood in line with their little cup. No. You got to think way bigger than that. They've been 3 days in the wilderness. That's actually Dr. Leonard Moeller right there in the trip we made in 2003. You can see he's halfway up the rock there. You see how big it is. Everything that we have found in this landscape is far bigger than we could have ever imagined. But what happened is this is an enormous rock, and the miracle that must have taken place there when Moses struck that rock the first time, like Jim has always said, it probably rivals the parting of the Red Sea, because the water that would have gushed forth. But you know what? They were 3 days in the desert. They had come out of the area of Mara and Elim, and they were 3 days in the desert, no water. 1 million plus people, flocks, herds, children. You know, if it's one little trickle from like the traditional area, you got people that are going to die before they ever get to the water.
That's right.
But where this thing broke apart and the waters came up from the great depths, as the scripture says, this would have gone and flowed down into the valley area there, and it would have pooled up, and because of the rocky terrain there, it would have pooled up greatly. We've got a good picture of that.
Yeah.
You can see out in front of where the rock is, you can see that whole area in front of it's been washed clean of the topsoil. It's a rock basin, and that water by the gallons would have poured down out of there, and it would have pooled up. So the whole nation, you can see how all the rock, it's been blasted to bedrock right there in front of this rock. Everybody could have drank all at one time. And the very next one, though, this is where it gets profound to us. It's not just a matter of finding a rock that looks good. Scripture says he clave the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as out of the great depths. Clave. So if you find the right rock, it's not a rock with a bunch of little round fissure holes that water might have come out of. It's a rock that's been divided, okay? That's very specific, because the very next thing it says, if you'll go back to that same photograph, the next thing it says is that he caused
53.
the waters to run down as rivers, brought streams out of the rock, caused them to run down. You have to have an elevated rock to have water run down.
Yes, you do. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ.